it's anything you don't understand or something don't feel right, don't smell right, you stop and ask.
And if I don't even think something's is gonna go wrong, I'll double check it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it can happen at any time.
You got to be thinking, what if, how could, and paying attention to your surroundings.
You know, stepping back and assessing the situation is always a good thing before you start work.
Call them what you want. Incidents, mishaps, flukes. Accidents will happen. However careful you try to be, it's inevitable that some unfortunate or unseen event is going to occur by accident. Accidents can and will happen on the job. Many of them involve serious injury, even death.
Brandywine man is in fair condition at UVA after
And although the company and you, the individual, suffer, it's also about the others around you, your co-workers, your friends, your family. They can be hurt as much or even more than you. Employees of Riddleberger Brothers Incorporated are well trained and confident in their abilities on the job. However, all too often, many of them think, "Oh, that's not going to happen to me." Some of your fellow employees thought that very same thing.
Came to work and we was demoing some pipes in a sewer treatment plant. It was scheduled just, just to do it whenever they had a slow time or, things wasn't fully in operation or whatever. So we came into work one day and the maintenance guy came by and said, "Hey, today's a good day, for us to do the demolition." In the course of, tearing stuff out, their maintenance guy had to stop, flow on their systems and shut things down and everything. It was about 9 o'clock, a little after 9, we went to break, and I noticed a spot on my pants that was darker than any other spot. And I raised my pants leg up, and my leg was a black spot about the size of a baseball. And I know, something wasn't right. They forgot to turn off the acid and the soda lines that kept the pH and the wastewater level. And when we had the stuff demoed, the stuff was actually dripping raw right out of the pipe, right down on my leg. I went to the wellness center twice a week and a doctor once a week for 4 or 5 months. The accident happened in April, and I ended up getting a skin graft in October. If you're not sure of what you're doing, ask somebody. Most people are more than willing to help, get you down the right path or make sure you're not endangering yourself, or, nobody wants to see anybody get hurt and go home. Everybody needs to go home the way they came to work that morning. So if you don't know, just ask, or don't do it until you ask.
And I had to freeze a line. We were moving a VAV box. And the night, it was textbook. There was 2 valves. I shut both the valves. I drained the VAV box. I put the freeze machine on it, the bottom line on the return. I started, froze the line. I opened the valve. I knew it was drained. I moved my freeze machine up to the next line, which is the supply. Same thing. I froze it, opened the valve, drained the water. I went back down the ladder to take my piece of pipe down, and when I started back up the ladder to slide my pipe on, the line blew loose. I was in a hallway. It was 180-degree water. I had a sweatshirt on, a heavy, out because it was February, but I had a heavy sweatshirt on. My whole body was steaming. I was soaking wet. When I took my leather gloves off, half the skin on my hand and my wrist came off with it. There is no other pain like it. It's excruciating. I can't explain to you how bad it hurts.
Riddleberger Brothers has implemented a simple pre-planning process to help you identify and deal with hazards you might encounter on the job. It's called 5x5. It sounds simple, but it might save you or your workmates from serious or fatal injury. Remember, 5x5. Put your tools down, take 5 steps back, and take 5 seconds to determine, can anything go wrong? What's the worst that can happen? It means team safety. We want you all to go home at the end of the day the way you came to work.
Well, it was the Friday before Christmas. I think it was December 23rd. Trying to get out of town to go on vacation. One of our sales guys said we had this job that we needed to look at, so we needed to go over there and get some eyes on where we needed to run a pipe, trace out some steam lines, that sort of things. We identified what manholes we thought the existing steam lines ran through, and we then took a pry bar and opened up one of the manholes, and we were holding that manhole cover up, vertically, and at some point there, the manhole cover slipped from our hands, and it came down onto the manhole itself, and apparently my toe was in between them. No safe protection. I was wearing the shoes that I typically wear in the office, but in hindsight, obviously, it was a mistake. Currently now we have a tool to remove those manhole covers a lot safer. The impact for me probably was more family than anything else. I had already scheduled vacation between the holidays. My parents live out of state, so the plan was, after Christmas Day to head up there and visit with them for the week. That obviously did not happen. I spent the 23rd that afternoon in the emergency room getting my toe sewn back together, and pretty much spent that following week in the recliner with my foot propped up because it was still, bleeding profusely. I mean, it comes back to pre-planning. So we improvised and used a pry bar on site there to pull that manhole cover up. Now, obviously, if we would have stepped back and assessed the situation, we probably would have taken a different route.
Well, a new hire, an 18-year-old new hire, and his brother were around back of the school putting in underground a grease trap. And this particular day, they were in need of pipe, which the laydown area was, several hundred yards away by the football field, so they weren't going to pick it up with the backhoe. And the younger boy, the 18-year-old, got in the backhoe, rode around the school to the laydown area, and was going to get a 5-foot piece of hub pipe. And in the process, he got off the backhoe still running, he's got it in park, but he went around back and got behind the hoe, between the hoe itself and the outrigger, and proceeded to load it up into the cab area. So when that piece of pipe went in, it wedged. Well, simultaneously on the same side he's on, it hits the throttle, which revs the tractor, and hits the swing his direction, and pins him chest high between the outrigger and the hoe itself. And it didn't crush him, it was just suffocating him. And the problem was he went by himself. And he was 200 yards from the job site. No training. We had no training. That boy had no training. It was kind of like, and when you're a kid, it's exciting to run equipment like that. So, usually they're the first ones to get on it, and, the supervisors and the foremen are in the ditch doing the work, and it's just kind of like a go get it, fella. And it was a lack of training by all means. It emotionally tore everybody up. We were all shell-shocked. It was catastrophic. It shut the job down. Everything stopped. Even when we came back, morale, everybody was, it was just terrible. It was terrible.
We were welding in the basement. Well, there was a bang that wasn't like a brick or a cinder block. And kind of looked out there, and you seen something laying in the ground. It was a guy. His eyes were open. He was dead. It killed him right on impact. Kind of always remember that. Always think about it. He had a bucket of mortar in his hand, and he was in between scaffold bucks, and he was tied off on the one. He went to, I guess, tie off to the next one. He had double lanyard. He had what he was supposed to have, and he turned around, and the strap got caught on something, and he couldn't get the tie off with his other one. So instead of fixing whatever the problem was, he unhooked and just went on down the line. And when he turned, the mortar was heavy in that bucket, and from him spinning, it carried him off the side. He went tied off. 6 stories, I think it was. 5 or 6. He was up there. Yeah, he was on the outside, right on the edge of the building. And the only thing underneath of him was that metal sea can. That's what he hit. But he was older, probably 50s, you know. Had somebody to go home to, didn't go home that day. Spent his whole life working to make ends meet, and then something like that happens.
I think our attitude now is so much more towards, you know, safety being the #1 thing versus get her done. And that's changed everybody's perspective. Everybody wants everybody to go home every day.
This, then, is the value of the 5x5 experience. It's just that simple. Put your tools down, take 5 steps back, and take 5 seconds to determine, can anything go wrong? What's the worst that can happen? You may be faced with situations like the ones you've seen. By completing your 5x5, there's a good chance that you could prevent similar incidents and the pain that they cause. Just ask yourself, could that be me?